Okay, so let's start. Just a very practical thing before we start is that there are 3 spaces down at the front, so if any of the choir want to take those spaces, they're free. Oh, anyway, great. Well, just a really warm welcome to Sheffield Buddhist Centre tonight for this really fantastic event. It's just great that we are here to welcome back our 3 new lovely order members to Sheffield. So actually what I'm going to do now is just introduce them, ask them to stand up, and another chance to welcome them. So, Karmajit. And Shubhasingha. So I'm Jyoti, and I'm the chair of Sheffield Buddhist Centre. So these 3 men left Sheffield a few months ago on a mythic, life-changing adventure up into the mountains, into the secret valley, the mountains in Spain. And they've returned to us now with their bright new cases and with their new names, and tonight wearing the robes that they wore on their retreat. So tonight we're going to find out more about these new beings and we're already giving them a great welcome, but carry on giving them a great welcome home. There's a few people I just want to thank first, because an event like this takes quite a lot of people to put it together. So there's the whole team who work behind the scenes. The shrine was made by Alex, Tom, Jack, and Viryananda. Thank you. The garlands by Bodhinaga and his 2 children, Robert and Grace, made the garlands. Richard and Petraraj are going to take the photographs. Mike Jivasan on the sound, and the whole team who set it up. And of course, we have really missed Viryananda and Karmajit tonight. On a big event like this, they'd normally be right in the heart of it, making it happen. Okay, so tonight's event is in 2 parts. First of all, we're going to hear more about the 3 new order members. And then after a short leg stretch, we're going to collectively take part in a ritual, which we'll hear more about later. So a few practical things is the tea break is at the very end of the evening, okay? And we could really do with people to clear up at the end of the night. So if there's anybody who can help clear up here and downstairs, if you just put your hand up now. Great. So we're going to start with welcoming the new order members back in a very traditional way by garlanding them. In a minute, not yet, but in a minute, the choir are going to come up on stage and they're going to chant the blessings. And during this, Viryananda will garland Karmajit, Maitrivasan will garland Viryananda, and Preti will garland Shubhasingha. So I'd like to invite the choir up now, please.
By the power of
Thank you. It's really beautiful. So another great delight tonight is that we have Jnana Vacha here with us. So Jnana Vacha is Shubhasingha's private preceptor, and he's here visiting us from London, where he lives. He's a very beloved and experienced order member, and is renowned for his excellent talks. And he's also a public preceptor, so someone with a deep understanding of the significance of ordination. So we're really lucky to have him here to give us a short introduction to the meaning of ordination. Because we've got such a feast of delights here tonight, we've got to be really strict about timing. So Vimla Dasa has got a feather that he's going to wave. So for everybody who's speaking tonight, what will happen is a minute before the end of your allotted time, Vimla Dasa will wave the feather, and then you have another minute. So it's just a warning, and then he'll wave it again a bit more strongly at the very end. Okay. Another technical thing is if you're speaking, particularly if you're rejoicing, it's so tempting to go like this and look at the guys. However, if you do that, we won't be able to hear you at the back of the hall. So if you can, just keep your nerve and just look forward. That would be great. Okay, well, I'd just really like to invite the other one.
Thank you, Secretary. It's a real pleasure, a delight to be here. And I really want to see Vimla Dasa just wave the feather. So, yes, I've been asked to say a little bit about the significance of ordination, which is a sort of impossible thing to say even if I had 10 times as long. But it is something that is really worth trying to dwell upon, and because these men have, in a way, they've made a commitment that they don't fully understand, and some of us here have made that commitment years ago, and we are still trying to work out, well, I speak for myself, what that means, and after 24 years I'm still trying to fathom it. Its significance seems to deepen. Because when you make a commitment to a transcendent ideal, a transcendental ideal, it has to be something that is moving into the unknown. These men have just made that commitment to realizing what the Buddha realized. And the Buddha said that his own realization was beyond the sphere of reason. It was atakavachara, which means it cannot be comprehended. The realization, the enlightened experience cannot be comprehended through conceptual means. It is beyond the sphere of reason. And these men have said that they want to put a quest for enlightenment at the heart of their lives. And what's more, in Triratna, Bhante Sangharachita has in a way, he's defined ordination as the turning point in a Buddhist practitioner's life. And it's not just a turning point that is about escaping from suffering for one's own sake. Enlightenment can sometimes be put in rather, well, in a way, in negative terms. It is to do so to become a force for good in the world, a force for good in the world in union with, in harmony with a community, a Sangha that is now worldwide. And that is the loftiest ideal that I think a human being can commit themselves to. The very act of committing oneself to an ideal that is transcendent is already a transformative experience. And I think these three men have had a touch of that transformation. It's a little bit like the inner compass of their being has been shifted, perhaps just by a degree. Perhaps they didn't even know that that had happened. Something very, very deep happens at the ordination, in the ordination ceremonies. And if they continue practicing, if they continue being faithful to the commitment that they made just a few weeks ago, I was there just witnessing Shubhasingha's ordination and, well, all three of their public ordinations I was present for. And if they continue following through on that commitment, it will be a completely radical transformation for the rest of their lives, but also for, in a way, everybody that they come into contact with. And if they do that in the spirit of the Triratna Buddhist community, if they do that in the spirit of the Sangha, it will have a profoundly positive effect on, maybe hundreds of people, hundreds, maybe even thousands of people. People that they may not even meet directly will be touched, because that's what the Dharma does. It touches us in ways that we can't necessarily understand. So I just think it's a very kind of sober act, this commitment, and it's also a very joyous act. It's a courageous act as well. I think it's a heroic act to commit yourself to an ideal that is beyond this world. I've got 1 minute. It's beyond this world. To try and realize enlightenment in this human form, where we still are in this world of time and space and desires, and we have lives to lead and bills to pay, to try and realize a transcendental ideal in this human form is perhaps almost unfathomably lofty as an ideal. And to do that for the sake of others is, I think, the most heroic thing that human beings can aspire to. So I think it's a very, very noble thing that these three men have just done. And many of you, well, some of you have made that commitment. Some of us have made that commitment, and others are training to make that commitment. It can sometimes take a long, long time to even get to this point. And this, as somebody has said, is like, for them, the end of the beginning and a new beginning. It's now that, in a way, their order lives start, and that is a completely new journey, and they don't really know what that is. That in itself is a very exciting thing to witness, and it's really, really good that we're just wishing them well on that start this evening. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Nanavacha. That's really beautifully done in 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay, so now, the bit I've been waiting for. We're going to hear more about each of the new order members, starting with Karmajit. And what will happen is, first of all, his friend Manikaya will come up and rejoice in his merits. He's just getting it perfect right now. Then Karmajit's private preceptor, Jayagupta, will come up and tell us the meaning of his name. Jayagupta gave him the name Karmajit. And then lastly, we'll hear from Karmajit himself, who'll tell us something about his experience of ordination on the retreat. So I'm just going to let the three of you, I'm not going to pop up in between you, if you see what I mean, if you can just follow on from each other. Great.
Thank you. Good evening. It is an utter delight to rejoice in Karmajit, as it has been a delight to spend time with him over the years. And many of you will have benefited from his warmth and generosity and quiet action, quite possibly without even knowing about it. He's a practical and resourceful man who sees abundance around him. I remember the first men's camping evening we organised. Karmajit arrived with a tub of dal and a wok to heat it in, but none of us had quite the implement good enough to stir it. As we offered our teaspoons or sporks, Karmajit turned calmly to the hedgerow around him and liberated a suitable chunk of timber, which he used immediately as spatula, ladle, and then firewood. He goes calmly and steadily about things, and that gives him tremendous capacity. Not least because he's a 5 a.m. starter. He'll be out doing prostration in the open air, travelling widely across the area to help some of the most profoundly disabled people in our region to improve their quality of life. Home again, a family meal, often then out to study. On a Tuesday night, you'll often find him here washing up after us all on Sangha night. He strikes me as like an ocean-going sailing boat that proceeds steadily and by doing that covers vast distances. He has an aesthetic feel for things. He has an artistic feel for things and practices calligraphy and shares not only the products of that, but tips on how to do it yourself if you want to have a go at the brushstrokes. He has a feel for the Dharma, and when we're wrestling in study with trying to get the conceptual meaning of a Dharma, he will come in with his experience of it, his feel for it from his own practice. And it wasn't really a surprise for me to hear that when he was given his sadhana on ordination retreat, sadhana being the visualization of a Buddha that we practice, his approach to that was simply to practice it 3 or 4 times a day to try and get under the skin of it. He's warm and generous, as those of you who've spent time with him will have discovered. And he's undaunted, unfazed by scale or complexity. He's known amongst us as an ocean of calm. In terms of scale, he literally travelled halfway around the world for the right conditions. He thinks nothing of cooking for 40 people on Sangha retreat without the recipe book, or standing up to give a Sangha talk. And coming back to where I began, round the campfire, I haven't just picked up tips from him on how to make a good dal, but how to make freshly leavened baked bread, or even steamed bao buns. He inspires and raises the bar on us all in many ways. There's much more I could say, but let me close. Warm and generous, practical, steady, a feel for truth and beauty, an ocean of calm. Karmajit, you inspire me. It's a delight to be brothers. I'm so pleased also that my son has been able to spend time around you. You're a delightful role model. It seems superfluous, unnecessary for me to wish you success, because success seems to me to be assured by the way you are in the world. It's a great gift for us to be around you. You are a gift to the world.
Thank you, Monikaya. I thought of Ocean and Calm as a name for him, but it would actually end up sounding rather like his surname. So I had to give that one a miss. But Karmajit is a straightforward name. It literally translates as he who wins through his actions. So karma refers to actions, and jit, that jit bit, is to do with victory, success, or you could say liberation. He was liberated through his actions. So it's a straightforward name for a straightforward and deeply committed man. Someone who we've already heard expresses himself through his actions. Jnanavacha talked about it being a long journey for some people to ordination. Karmajit's got quite a story to tell in that department. In 1997, he first made his contact with the movement. That was in Nepal. And he rocked up, I think you could say that, he rocked up at Sheffield Buddhist Centre, which wasn't actually Sheffield Buddhist Centre quite in those days, in 2001. So he turned up there and he's been turning up ever since. That's really his characteristic. So he's not someone for a latte and a slice of cake. He's more at home doing things, creating things, making things, fixing things, cooking, doing things, as Manikaya said. And for a day job, he works as an occupational therapist. And he gets a lot of satisfaction, I think, from helping people with very, very limited physical mobility to communicate. So talk to him about that, and you get a sense of how deeply he's motivated by a sort of practice that counts. I've no doubt that Karmajit will be a great order member, simply just because he'll get on and do what needs doing. He will win through his actions. Thank you. Hello, my name is Karmajit. I was just having a fantasy of being at Glastonbury. They're on stage. Thank you. Anyway, Karmajit, the one who wins through his actions. So I've been back a week or so, and when people ask me what I've did for the past 3 months, I usually can only reply truthfully, very little. Especially for a man of action called Karmajit. So I'm going to sort of describe my experience, and I sort of spent my time I've written here, looking at the moon a lot, sharing my life stories, and lying in my hammock overlooking the valley. So I was also, where we were staying, I'm going to describe the environment a little bit. We were sort of in a sort of limestone valley up in the mountains, and we sort of got on the south side, there's a big giant ridge, and on the north side is a giant ridge, and we're sort of in the saddle on the top of an empty valley, and the sun rises at the east and sets at the west. So we sort of have this whole vista around us, a bit like, and there's times where the moon and the sun are up at the same time, a bit like a tanker painting, if you've ever seen a tanker painting where you see the moon and the sun. So it was quite an intense environment to sort of spend a lot of time doing not much. So I was also thinking about doing nothing a lot, and I was also thinking about something I heard on the radio just before I left. It was a bit of an earworm sort of thing, and it was sort of this statement I heard on the radio. It says that we only live about 4,000 weeks if we're going to live to 80, if we're lucky enough to live to 80, and I'd already spent 3,000, so I only have 1,000 weeks left. So as an order member, and I was wondering where that going to take me, really. So initially, the hardest thing, second for being out of contact from my family, was probably the hardest thing. I was kind of reclaiming my lost skill of doing nothing. So this is a skill I mastered in my 20s, but I lost in my 40s. And just sort of letting go of this sort of, I took a long time to adjust from living in a household family life, full-time work, to this sort of life of renunciation and not doing much and just having a regular routine. So for me, it was really quite hard to sort of let go of this sort of unfolding task, to-do list that I sort of have in my mind. It was sort of continuous sort of preoccupation of just trying to do things all the time. So that's from an action or Karmajit point of view, that's the wrong sort of action. I'm kind of interested in sort of doing less and less and more and more, as we say. No, more and more of less and less. Completely got that wrong. All right. So living in this environment, my sense of time slowed down and sort of expanded, because when we have more, minimize our sort of input and we sort of do drop our sort of distractions, we kind of have a different sort of sense of perspective of time and space, I think, because we actually open up ourselves to our immediate experience, which we don't really get a chance to do in our sort of day-to-day life. And living outdoors, we were living outdoors basically when we were washing with buckets outside. I was the first one to strip off. All the young lads, all sort of like a bit cowrie, but I was the first one to get it all off and get the bucket over me. I was role model, the old one. I was the second oldest by 2 weeks. So we sort of, I don't know, we lived in we had this sort of smell of wild rosemary around us and pine trees. There's just rosemary sort of scrubland there, and also gorse, sort of getting cut up a bit sometimes. And it's uneven ground and it's rocky and nothing's kind of straight. And everything's sort of earth-coloured. There's no colour. It's a really interesting sort of space to enter. We're so high in the valley, because we're up the top of this valley, that
the cliff faces sort of go off that way. The swifts were sort of at our head level. They were swooping in and over the valley and at head level, and they were sort of nesting at cliff level. They were at the same sort of level as these sort of swifts. So there was these periods of time in the evening where swifts were ducking, and they were sort of in and out. It was pretty amazing. You see that? Yeah. Okay. So I want to leave enough time to express my gratitude to a big list of people to thank. So for me, ordination was more than a point in time. It was sort of this long process that started with my first contact in 1996. That was 1,500 weeks ago. And the guy who, so this was, there's this guy, the first order member I met from Triratna is a guy called Amogavira from Scotland. And he was running these sort of day retreats, sort of intro course on a rooftop in Kathmandu. And for me, I left with a new meditation practice. So I took on the Metta Bhavana as a second practice. And a little slim book that fitted in my backpack that cost 35 rupees. And its title was called Introduction to Buddhism, and was written by a young Mitra in Sheffield. And I've told the story before, but 5 years later, by pure chance, I attended an intro course in Sheffield, led by that Mitra, who since was ordained, Vidanya, and his mate Amogavamsa. And so his Amogavamsa is the first person I spoke to who signed me in on the night. So, and Amogavamsa also has been important in my life. He was rejoiced for me in my Mitra ceremony. And he's also helped me out when quite young, when the children were, actually before the children were born, actually, he was doing a lot of help for me around the house. That's another story about a home birth and connecting the water the day before. Or a water birth at home in the kitchen. Okay. So I've been a Mitra for about 20 years, and I really want to thank all the study leaders and support teams. Like, I've been in Vidanya's group a few times, I've been in Mogavamsa's group a few times, I've been in Jaya Gupta's group a few times, I've been in Jaya Vajra's group and Savannah Garba, and I think there's some other groups I've been in too, I can't remember. So I would also like to thank Padma Vajra, and the Padmaloka ordination team, who provided men with a space and friendship to be serious practitioners at Padmaloka. And also want to thank Jaya Gupta and Bodhi Naga again for prompting me at times and giving me encouragement to actually ask for ordination, and then pushing me along the process when I just sort of said, I'll just let things happen naturally. And I also want to thank my study group as well, the men I'm with at the moment, Andy, Vimala Dasa, Dayaloka, Sangha, Manikaya and Mahaprasara, for their support, because they've actually helped me in sort of this holding pen area, we've been sort of waiting for a few years. Anyway, then we've slowly, one by one of us have been ordained, and we're just waiting for Andy next. Okay. So thank you, Jaya Gupta, for being my private preceptor and witnessing me taking on I'm supposed to face this, aren't I? Witnessing take on the 10 precepts and giving me my visualization practice. And I want to thank Naga Bodhi, who recently visited here, I think, because he ordained Jaya Gupta. And I want to thank Sangharachada for ordaining Naga Bodhi. And this sort of unbroken chain of real people who have witnessed real people and their commitment is a sort of unbroken chain, you can imagine, going all the way back to, it is an unbroken chain because we wouldn't exist without the original chain going back to the Buddha and his disciples. But us as a group are this sort of active face and front of actually living this life and actually trying to put these sort of ideas in practice. And I think that's the vividness and the aliveness of that is actually the important thing. So I want to thank all of you for your support. And this Sangha is pretty amazing because actually this is the context that we're all going to go forth from. Thank you very much for all your support.
rejoice in Viryananda. Jai Gupta, also Viryananda's private preceptor, is going to tell us about his name, and then Viryananda himself will speak. Let's invite Emma up.
Hi, everyone. So, is that okay? Can everybody hear me okay? Great. So, I met Viryananda maybe 6 or 7 years ago, probably at a younger Sangha event, and then we went on to be on the team together. I find it really hard not to look at you. And when I first met him, he'd not long moved into the men's community and then has started to work in the Hridaya team. And then almost 3 years ago, I joined the Hridaya team in lockdown, and we really got to know each other. So I'm really, really thrilled to rejoice in my good friend, Viryananda. Over the last few years, he has become a really important person in my life, and I love him very much. And as I'll talk about, he normally rejoices in others, so it's really lovely to get a chance to rejoice in him. And I'm going to talk about this. He's got so many qualities, but I'm going to focus on 3 that have really stood out and have come up again and again when I've asked other people what they really appreciate in him. And I also really love that his name includes the word delight, so that's going to come up a lot too. So the first thing I want to rejoice in is his taking delight in the world and the Dharma. So Ellie, who works in our team, said he is in awe of what life has to offer us, including even just the water we have to drink. So one of the first things that struck me about Viryananda when I first met him is he was so full of joy and gratitude and enthusiasm for his life. There wasn't a shred of cynicism, and I was really struck that I really remember thinking, I don't think I've ever met anybody who was so wholeheartedly happy about their life choices. And I remember even before he worked at the centre full time, I used to see him, and maybe other people did, cycling up hills with like veg boxes on the back, and then he was just having a great time. Phoebe, who works on our team, said he has a sense of wonder about things, and that he often expresses this in his really beautiful art. One of my favourite memories of Viryananda before he went was, obviously a lot of people know that he runs, and he'd gone on a particularly long run and ended up getting lost, and had to take a detour through a massive extent of stinging nettles. And being Viryananda, he just went joyfully through them for quite a long time. And when he got back, he was almost intoxicated with the stings. And I remember he stayed up all night because he was so intoxicated. And rather than feeling sorry for himself, he was just in awe of the power of stinging nettles. He really takes delight and gratitude in the Dharma. And the life that it has given him. I really love his faith, and also the delight he gets when he experiences what happens when he practices the Dharma. Satyajoti has said that he is very receptive and learns quickly and really puts the Dharma into practice in his life, and I really see that. So secondly, his delight in being part of a team and being of service, which makes him a delight. I'm going to have to rush through this. I knew that was going to happen. Ever since I've known Viryananda, he's been part of teams, both here at the centre and otherwise. Food Works, Womble, Litter Pickers, to name a few. And he really is a doer and wants to make a positive impact in the world and those around him. T mentioned he encourages her to dance to drum and bass at 9 a.m. in the office. And he just says, I can't miss this out. Satyajoti rejoices in his beautiful checklists, which allow us to relax. And actually was so useful when he was away. He was giving even when he wasn't here. And I just wanted to mention the garden party last year as well. I just felt there were so many of his qualities that came out. Great organisation, and just making it really, really fun. He's really, really fun to work with. And he really rejoices in people. What Pranya Hridaya said is that the way that he wholeheartedly rejoices in people just really uplifts us all the time. It's such a beautiful quality. So finally, I want to rejoice in being a delightful friend. Phoebe rejoiced that he is a wonderful friend, and I totally agree. And I realised that when Viryananda went away for the first time, that he really was one of my best friends, and I rely on him to stay sane and well. And there are lots of qualities that make Viryananda a great friend. He really listens with an open mind and an open heart. He is always kind. He is very forgiving and particularly gives me a lot of grace. He has a strong presence of groundedness, which is calming to be around, and I really appreciate this. And he continually wants to grow and be the best man he can be, and that is so inspiring to be around. I've loved watching him grow over the last few years, and I've learned so much from his process, and I really look forward to this next chapter unfolding.
Viryananda, two Sanskrit words, virya, which is energy, or sometimes referred to as energy in pursuit of the good, and ananda, which is bliss. And it just seems to exude from him both those qualities. When you put them together, we come up with the translation, he who delights in vigor. But I just like playing with those two things, the energy that just comes across and the bliss that often you get when you're in his company. So his delight is that big, broad, animated grin. I thought you'd do that. With the light in the eyes as well. And the vigor in his capacity to do all those things, actually, that Emma said, to connect, to organize, to gather people together, to befriend people. He's incredibly efficient. He follows up on tasks and sees what needs doing before you've seen it yourself. As I said, he's often answered a question before you've had the time to formulate it. Incredibly efficient, incredibly friendly. And also there's a sensitive and emotional side to that virya. So it's not all sort of energy that sort of blasts you. It's an energy that sort of can soothe you and draw you in, and is very loving as well. And I really appreciate that. He's delighted and moved by serving the three jewels and by the whole myth of altruism of the order. I'm sure that the Buddhist Center as a whole has missed him while he's been on his ordination retreat. And I'm sure everybody will be really keen to have him back. I can see Emma nodding, particularly in the office, the engine room that makes a lot of these things happen. And Viryananda, you're a great support in that. You're also a great friend as well. Viryananda.
Hello, I'm Viryananda. I have to say to anyone watching from India, a very big Namo Buddhaya Jai Bhim. Hello to you. So, Viryananda, my personal favorite alternative translation is he who loves to make an effort. Or you could also call me he who enjoys the state of being a strong man. So, thank you so much, Jayagupta, for giving me my name. A name which I feel really shines a light on me, and I suppose illuminates my aim in life, or illuminates what my goal can look like. You could say it's the name of the Buddha who I'm going to become, in that it's someone who does whatever is needed to be done in every moment, and does that with joy. So if that's going well, all of my energy gives rise to delight for me and other people. So that's electrifying. See what I can do. But I think the name, for me, it also points out the path to becoming that person. It's what the practice, what this actually looks like in a life lived. So it's a life of making an effort to grow, of making an effort to serve the situation, the people around me. Making an effort to do what's needed. And it's not just any kind of effort. It's not a grim effort. It's a delighted effort, a kind of delightful effort, the kind of effort that's real bliss, that's just made just for the thrill of it, just for the fun. And if you're not quite sure what that looks like, just come and watch me digging a hole. So Viryananda, the two parts go together. It's clear to me that the energy, it depends on there being joy and delight behind that, and that the joy and delight is there when I make an effort. The name, I don't think it can be understood conceptually. I think sometimes it will just look mysterious, and sometimes it could look very silly. Thank you again, Jai Gupta. The name is a constant invitation for me. I got to know a little bit about Viryananda and being Viryananda whilst we were at Gukyaloka. 2.5 months sounds like a long time to be on retreat, but really it's just a short while to be living in a monastery, a timeless realm where every day is the same, and yet not a single moment was ever repeated. So I think it was about 8 or 9 weeks into the into the retreat, and one day we were all sitting around in a circle, checking in as we occasionally did. So 23 of us, all in our robes, wooden benches, pine trees, small stone buildings, and I was looking forward to being such a good Buddhist. Telling everyone how well it was going, and what a kind of heavenly experience I was having. But unfortunately, it wasn't actually going as I expected. So I hadn't expected to come up against my own high expectations of myself and of the retreat. And I hadn't expected to find that I was actually making it difficult for myself. Whilst I was out there, hadn't expected to we'll get into blaming that on my dear friend Prakasha Mitra, who I was sharing a hut with, and I hadn't expected to be kind of losing perspective in all of this. I suppose I hadn't expected to find such humility, and in the difficult moments, what really helped sometimes was going running. And one morning I was running down the track, and then it came to me. Viryananda, you gotta go where the energy is. It's a teaching. So singing was also helpful. So the energy was untied by acknowledging and I suppose just revealing what was actually going on. Honesty became the key to freedom for me. And I think I've always wanted to be one of those really honest people who says it like it is. And I got an opportunity to become a bit more like that. So when it was my turn to check in, that's what I did. And of course, all my brothers there on the course listened, and they've been very, very kind to me. I've been given a lot of love over that time, and I've grown as a result of that. And I suppose that was the experience that I went for. So I had Amoghamax's words in my mind as well. The spiritual life can be a really messy business. It's true. But people can connect with honesty, and it was the connections that I'll remember. And I suppose I've learned just how dependent I am upon the people around me. And sometimes when it was difficult, I would bring you to mind. One night I wrote down 70 names, and most of you are in this room. And what strength comes from that? It's incredible. So I just have to say thank you. You are such a part of my life, and it's very clear to me that what we're creating here is just amazing, and we're doing it together. I couldn't imagine a better place to come back to. I really couldn't. So, thank you. So many people have made it possible for me to become Viryananda and be here today. Starting with Leo Rosa, who's now back in Brazil, but he was the first Buddhist who I ever met, and he just very warmly invited me to come here on the intro course. And then on that first night, it was Satyajyoti, Mokshitara, and Pradaya leading the course, and straight away confirming to me that another way of life was possible, and it was happening here. All the people supporting that course who recognized my keenness and really encouraged me in that all the way through. I've got to thank the guys upstairs here in the men's community who very quickly befriended me, invited me up, invited me to live with them, and well, I've completely transformed as a result of living together. So at the moment we're Maithrivasi, Aryadasa, Pranya Hridaya, Shubhasingha, Alex, Paul, and Vidya. I wouldn't be me without you. But also the past community members, Amoga Banksa, Maitridasa, and Rick. Yeah, thank you so much. And then I'll say thank you to the centre team and the trustees, past and present, for your, I suppose, continued faithfulness to what the Buddha taught. To creating a community here that I found inspiring, I was convinced by, and I wanted to be a part of. And then for seeing that in me and inviting me to be a part of it. And I've been working, in the centre ever since then. It's been an absolute pleasure working here, and that's really changed me too. So many teams, the Hridaya team, the Shrine team, the Film and Culture Club, the gardening team, the maintenance team, and most importantly, the office team. It's a real joy to work together. I have to say a special thank you to all of the other young people who are part of the Sangha. It's because of you, and especially the people who facilitated the Young Buddhist events, I never had to make a choice between being a Buddhist and hanging out with other young people my age. And I'm not sure that I would have had the courage to be a Buddhist without having friends who were Buddhists. Jai Gupta, you've made me Viryananda, you've given me so much. I'll single out your smile, which is a constant invitation into what might be a profound mystery or might just be some incredible joke that I've not heard yet. Maybe both. None of us would be here in the first place if it wasn't for Bhante Sangharakshita, the founder of Triratna. My most precious teacher. Because he did what he did, I've been able to do what I've done. So thank you, Bhante. My sister Mary, I love you, and you're amazing. And finally, Mum and Dad, you've made it so clear to me that you just want the best for me. And you've given me the freedom to find out for myself what that is and just encourage me to do it. I think all of my life, you've just been sharing the joy that comes from your lives based on serving other people and just enjoying the beauty of the world. So thank you for that. You've really given me a taste for delighting in the most beautiful things, as well as lots of digging experience. You always made sure that I ate my greens, and look what happened. So yeah, it's so good to be home. Yeah, thank you.
Now, the wonderful Shubhasingha. So, we have Alex, who I don't know where he is, but I'm sure he knows where he is, that's good. It's going to be rejoicing. Jnana Vacha, his private preceptor, will tell us about his name, and then Shubhasingha himself will have his time to talk to us. So, Alex.
Hello, I'm just recovering from Viryananda's beautiful rejoicing with his parents, so I'm just, settling down. Yes, it is my great joy, delight and pleasure to rejoice in my friend Shubhasingha. I first met Shubhasingha on my first ever retreat with Triratna at Lockabrook on the Sangha retreat, and I don't remember much about our first interaction other than his beaming smile. And how seriously he took me. I was this 21-year-old, bounding around, really inspired by the Dharma. And Shubhasingha is just sturdy, taking me in, really loving me, and also getting me to chill out a bit. He just really took me on, and really wanted to be my friend. And that was really important. I'm going to try not cry. What else have I written down? Yeah, really, really encouraging, and has been ever since that first time where he took me in and grounded me a little bit. Throughout our whole friendship, been on many walks, been on retreats together. My first Getting for Refuge retreat in Padmaloka, just kind of walked me around the place and said, "You are going to still come, aren't you? You're going to keep coming," and just always putting loads of energy into my life. I'm really grateful for that. Shubhasingha is very, very positive. I don't know if you've had the chance to spend time with Shubhasingha. He has a very positive thing to say about your life all the time. He can he takes you in, and he just gives you back something positive. You have a very positive perspective on my life, and I've witnessed that for loads of other people as well. He always has something really positive to say. I remember a time, maybe a couple of years ago, we were on a walk. Shubhasingha was having a difficult time. I think you even called it the dark night of your soul or something like that. It was very poetic and dramatic. And still, he didn't really want to go into it that much. But it was just so positive. There was something really, churning going on in his soul. And he was just so loving and warm. And I couldn't tell, to be honest. I was like, all right, okay, something's going on. But I don't know what. Yeah, I'm going to take a risk, and Shubhasingha is hilarious, absolutely hilarious, and it's a risk because I'm going to tell him some jokes that he's made that won't make any context, it won't make any sense to you. But Shubhasingha, there was 4 of us sat in the community on the community sofas, and Shubhasingha was stood under the window opposite us, playing the guitar. And went on a 5 to 6 minute song called Window Pane. And the lines go something like, "Mama told me to run, window pane, window pane." And it just went on and on and on. It's milking this joke for far too long. But we were all the community was opposite, just really cheering him on because we really needed it. And it was exactly what we needed at the time, and it was hilarious. Shubhasingha is very good at tickling. He tickles me a lot. He's very strong, so I can't get away from him. What else do we do in community that's very silly? Lots of Nerf gun battles. Thank you, Vinodasa. Yeah, lots of Nerf gun battles. Yeah, he's an all-round delight to be with and live with. And I've also had the great pleasure of being in study groups with him. We were in a Mitra group together. I supported him when he led an intro course, and I've spent many Thursday nights with him at community night. And so I've been a kind of fly on the wall, a witness to his depth and to his real, watching him bring his life completely under the kind of light and gaze of the Dharma. And I've been so struck so many times how we'll be talking about something in study or community night, and I'll just say something completely left of field, or it feels left of field to me, that's like so true. And so, he's just brought his own life and experience into the Dharma, and he's then shared that with us and shared deepened my understanding through his own depth as well. And that is all I'm going to say. So, thank you.
Thank you, Alex. That's very good to hear something, give me a new insight into Shubhasingha. Something that I wouldn't have otherwise learned. So Shubhasingha's name, Shubhasingha, is the lion of beauty. Shubha is beauty, Singha is lion. And the first part of his name, beauty, Shubha, I sort of think of it as the wisdom part of his name. Bhante has said that reflecting on beauty is a doorway to realizing the truth, which isn't really separate from goodness and love and not separate from beauty. Beauty is an aspect of the enlightened experience. And it's linked, Bhante says, he thinks that it's sort of largely been forgotten in the Buddhist tradition. And is linked, he links it to the figure of green Tara, which is Shubhasingha's yidam. I also think of beauty is associated with a purity of heart, and there's something in Shubhasingha which is very big-hearted, very pure-hearted. He, of course, does have a very fine aesthetic sensibility. He's a writer. He's got a sort of poetic, a love, actually, of poetry. But also I've been to exhibitions with him and seen his response to visual beauty. It's more than just a sort of response of entertainment or even of delight. It's a profound sense of being moved by beauty. So beauty is already very much in Shubhasingha's life, but yes, this wisdom component of the name is saying that we can take beauty even further. Bhante says that the real values are aesthetic, not utilitarian. We live our lives often in a way that is governed by utility, survival, and so forth, where the real values are aesthetic. That's what it would feel like. The world would be beautiful if we were enlightened. And Singha is a lion. I mean, Shubhasingha is a strong man. He's a lion of a man. He's a leader. And he's also, we've heard from Alex, he's got the qualities of an excellent Kalyana Mitra in the making. And the lion aspect of his name is, for me, it was also indicative of the effect that Shubhasingha can have in the world. It's a powerful effect. It's an effect of energy and vigor and directness and a force even, a force for good. So also I think the Singha aspect is an invitation for him and a challenge to take that force and aggression that he has as part of his nature and use it to transform himself and then help transform other people. So you could say it's the compassionate aspect of his name. So there we have it. Shubhasingha, the Lion of Beauty.
Hello, everyone. I'm Shubhasingha. I wasn't going to do that, but I felt compelled to do that. So yeah, thank you, Alex, for outing me as a singer-songwriter. Appreciate that. So yeah, I just want to start with my name. I'm so thankful to Jan of Archer giving me this name. At the time, at the public ordinations, he said that the preceptor acts as like a conduit to find the name we've always had. And it really feels like that. It feels like I've always had this name. He's really seen me. So I'm a lion on the path of beauty. And I remember in Mitra study, my first Mitra group years ago with Andy and Dennis, just verbalizing randomly, I almost took myself by surprise that I wanted to live a beautiful life. And it wasn't really well thought out. But at the time I sort of, I took back and just thought, wow, I've really verbalized a higher intention there. So for me, I think to live a beautiful life primarily is to live a life of love and to live a life of compassion. When the Buddha gained enlightenment, it wasn't cold and detached. Instead, it was quickly followed by that beautiful vision of seeing all beings as lotuses in different stages of blooming. And it's after seeing the world as such that we're told that the Buddha decides to spend the rest of his life teaching the Dharma and has an overflowing of compassion. So for me, this moment in the Buddha's life story illustrates that the life of a Buddhist, my life, is about transforming the whole of my being to the point where I too can experience the world and all it's been through that same lens of beauty and therefore love, as the Buddha did. It also shows me that the antithesis of a Buddhist life is to experience the world and its beings only in terms of how it's useful to me and how they can satisfy my needs. So it's obvious really, isn't it? If I treat people in my life, friends, as just like mere objects that are just there to give me happiness, to listen to my problems, it's quite an ugly existence that I'm setting myself up for, a life without feeling. Whereas conversely, the more I experience people with a reduced need to grasp after them or use them, the more I experience the whole of that person. And I think there's much more chance that that complex universe that is a human being has an opportunity to arise in front of me in all their beauty, and therefore an appreciative love can arise too in parallel to that. And this isn't just possible with people, but to live my whole life in this way, to see the whole world as beautiful, to see the whole world with love. And that's the path Jan of Archer has challenged and given me, seen in me. And I just really hope that I can work towards that potential fearlessly with courage as a lion would. And as he said, the singer part of my name is speaking to me just doing that, to using all my strength, all my courage to live a life that puts beauty and love first. So to transform our whole lives, it needs to really mean something to us. It needs to feel vital, doesn't it? I think if it's just half-hearted, not that much transformation is ever going to take place. And for me, this path of beauty, it feels worth it. It feels like the most meaningful thing I can do with my life. So Jan of Archer is saying, strive after it then, lion-like, as the Buddha did for enlightenment. But, that's not to say there is already loads of beauty in my life. I think on the course, the thing that's really stayed with me is this realization of how much more beautiful my life is since I started practicing as a Buddhist. And I particularly noticed this through my friendship with one of the men on the retreat called Dana Dara, who we shared a room with for 11 weeks. We were just next to each other in this small stone hut. And at the end of the retreat, I was genuinely in tears saying goodbye to him. Like I just felt so much love for him. And if you told the 16-year-old me that I'd be in tears over a male friendship, I just wouldn't have believed that was possible, that there'd be intimacy between two men like that. Back then in my life with male friendships, it was lucky of a night out, one of them got so drunk that they could be vulnerable for a few moments.
And even then, the next day, we'd wake up hungover and try and deny that it happened or just kind of shake it off embarrassed. But, there I was on that course for 11 weeks, living a life where I can be open to, listen to, support, share my vulnerabilities with another man, and all without any alcohol. And throughout the course, Danadari told me his life story in detail, loads of sit-downs under the trees. And every time he sat opposite me, it just felt like such a privilege that this man trusted me so much. And he went into great depth of the lows and the highs of his life and didn't shy away from it. And, not only him, but I was sharing this life with all the men on the course, Viryananda and Karmajit included. We were there for those months all together. We really lived together. We ate, told each other about the highs and lows of our lives, went on walks, meditated and did ritual, shared silence, discussed the Dharma, sat and looked at the night sky, laughed and talked. And all of this just up a mountain with towering cliff faces, the smell of rosemary. It's just such a beautiful life. And then I've come back home and realised that I have a beautiful life here as well, and so many beautiful people in it that I'm so grateful for, that have shaped me to be a man that I can be proud of, that can be a man that can open up to other men and have friendships with other men. So first, just to Jan of Archer, who in my second year of uni, I was 20, I saw him on YouTube giving a talk, and it completely changed my life and set me on this path. And ever since I've met him, he's been someone who's seen the highest in me. And it's really special to have someone that sees the highest in you. I think it's really unique to have a person like that in your life. And also to my mum, my dad, my sister, they've just loved me with their whole beings. And I think having people love you with their whole beings teaches you how to do that to other people in return. To Bodhi Naga for convincing me to stay in Sheffield when I was about to leave after I finished uni. And he also created the first young men's mitra group that completely changed my life, that really transformed it. Definitely to Amoga Vamsa and to Maitri Dasa, who guided me and set up this amazing culture in the community. And I moved in just a year after Viryananda, and again, day to day, their love, Amoga Vamsa's aphorisms, have just, have had such an effect on me. I am the man I am because of you, Amoga Vamsa. I'm Maitri Dasa, I know you're watching. To Jai Gupta for his joyous friendship, his humour, and for always leaving me feel like I've been understood when I walk away from meeting with him. And to Arya Dasa and Preti, because you two have been like brother and sister to me, like more than friends. And you've just, day to day for years, consistently given me encouragement, love, support. As long as you two live in Sheffield, I'll be in Sheffield too. And to Ellie, my girlfriend, just for loving me so much that she could let me go for all that time without contact. And for the straightforward support you've given me and encouragement, you do really want the best for me. And to be in a relationship with someone like that who wants the best for you, can let you go to do that. I'm a really lucky man to have met someone like you, so thank you. And to James, I know you're watching. He was next to me in my second year at uni, watching those Jan of Archer talks. And it was because of him, watching him ask for ordination, that I asked myself and that I'm here. So I love you so much. Thank you for everything you've given me. And I think finally, it has to be to Sangha to Bhante, the founder of this movement. Because he decided to burn his passport and set off on foot across India to be ordained as a Buddhist, I now stand here proudly ordained as a Buddhist. And I just hope I never take that for granted, all he's given me, this whole world that I now immerse myself in. I'm just so proud of the man I am because of him. So good to be back with you all. Thank you so much for coming. Yeah.
I guess I just want to finish by maybe echoing those words, on behalf of everybody here, how proud we are of you three men. Just fantastic to have you in the Sangha. So welcome home. It's really, I feel like I've really got to know you just now. You're, just really great to hear from you. And I'm really looking forward to carrying on getting to know you better. So on behalf of the Sangha, we're just so proud of you.